Hello and welcome to the Surgery and Therapy Summit interview with Ludo and Guy from the Wealth Training Company, which is owned by Darren Winters. It is such an honor to invite you both to this platform. Welcome, guys.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Hi, Robyn.
Hi. So this is a new concept for the medical profession. So I think this interview is about introducing the concept and just walking people through what trading and investing is. But before we do that, I think it would be really nice. First of all, we can begin with you, Ludo, and then you, Guy, and just tell us your story. How did you guys get into trading and investing?
Okay, cool. Well, look, I'm going to try and give you the short version of it because it's been a bit of a roller coaster, but it's been a lot of fun as well. But how did I kind of get into investing? It's a great question. Had a professional background. I was working pretty long hours, used to work for an events company before I even got into investing. And it was well paid. I've always kind of been the sort of person which has wanted to exceed in whatever I do. Always had a job since I was about 15. I left home at 18, was working independently, different jobs, finding professional roles. I actually ended up working for an events company, and it was a lot of fun. We used to travel all around the world. Been to South Africa quite a few times, Johannesburg, used to do quite a few things down your neck of the woods, Robyn, and we used to travel out to Australia, and it was all good. But the problem is you just didn't really have much time. Yeah. And the issue of what I would have is that I wasn't really kind of present in any aspect of the relationships I had. My parents, I hardly saw them. Be lucky if I saw them once or twice a year. I actually got married quite young and was never present in that relationship. And the money was great, but it doesn't necessarily mean everything. And it was getting to the point where I'd travel over to Melbourne from the UK for literally like 2 days and have to kind of come back. And as soon as you get back, you go into the office and do a handover. And look, at the end of the day, that was a good experience. It taught me a lot. However, at the kind of point in time where we were at, I was working, like I said, 6 to 7 days a week, pretty much all the time. And the company I was working for started going through a transitional period. And essentially what kind of happened is that they started to restructure the business. They brought in a new managing director. And unfortunately, the guy wasn't doing a very good job. And he started trying to cut costs. We actually found out that it was embezzling money from the company, got sacked. And during that period of time, unfortunately, I ended up getting divorced as well. And I think a big reason for that was not being present in the relationship and prioritizing work, etc. So obviously, it's not a great place to be. And I thought, look, this is a kind of transitional phase for me. And I thought, on paper, I've got everything that I should be happy for. Drive a nice car. I've got a lovely house. I'm married, etc. Money's good, but I didn't have any time or, wasn't in a position to be able to enjoy it with anyone. So I think there are obviously certain kind of scenarios, certain moments in your life where you get these little windows of opportunity where change is possible. And for me, the divorce, we ended up, distributing assets, sold the property, sold property, cars, etc. It was all amicable. But I thought, look, the company I'm working for is not doing great. My relationship is over. What do I do now? I've got some cash in the bank to look to do something different. And I'd always been interested in investing because I like the idea of it. And I was a bit younger back then, so I was a bit more naive to what I thought investing would be. And maybe I'd watched read too many books like The Wolf of Wall Street and had this kind of idea in my head of what making money and what lifestyle was like. And I knew that was what was important to me, but I wanted to find the right way to do it, an ethical way to be able to get into investing. And essentially what I kind of decided to do, and unfortunately, I'd love to say that I kind of met Darren from Wealth Training and met Guy and it was all happy start. It wasn't like that. Unfortunately, I met somebody before I met Darren and then ended up investing over £20,000 in training. And I thought this is a good time to do it. And the guy I invested the training with, this is going back about 5 or 6 years ago. This was back in May. His course was meant to start in November. And essentially what kind of happened was in that period in time, I thought it'd be a great idea to quit my job. And I thought, do you know what, this is the time I'm going to focus. I'm going to put all my eggs in this basket. And I ended up meeting my girlfriend, who we've got 2 kids with now in that period in time. And I convinced she wasn't happy with her job. So I convinced her to quit her job. So I thought, look, let's really give this a go. And we actually moved out to France. And we moved out to France essentially to spend a bit more time with my family. My parents retired in France a little while back. And again, I hadn't seen them because of the work I've been doing. I thought this would be a nice, quiet place to get into investing, a good reset, et cetera, et cetera. And essentially, we moved out to France, and the guys training, which we started working with, wasn't really going that well. I ended up blowing quite a lot of money, ended up blowing tens of thousands of pounds trading following this guy's advice. And, I think where I kind of was at that point is I was putting a lot of time into this. Now, in hindsight, now I realized I probably didn't need to put that much time in, but I was putting a lot of time into it. And the guy who was teaching me was chopping and changing his strategy from week to week. So he'd say, oh, you need to do this week, and you do it. And then he'd say, oh, no, sorry, I meant you need to do this. And he had an alert system, which he was sending across. And I'm not even joking, about 90% of his trades that he'd send to people were wrong and would lose you money. So something just didn't quite feel right. And I started to, confront him and say, look, I've spent a lot of money with you. We've been doing this for a while now. I'm putting a lot of time and commitment into this, but I'm losing money, and what you're teaching me isn't adding up. And then he blocked me from all communication. So then I'm thinking, okay, this is not good. What's going on here? And then, unfortunately, I started to do some research into who this guy was, and found out that he was a renowned con man. And he'd actually been going around the UK ripping people off. And I found a community of people who'd been scammed and conned, etc. My heart at that point just completely sunk. And what I forgot to mention is when we actually moved out to France with my girlfriend, we found out 2 weeks after we moved over there that she was pregnant. So I'm like, what is going on? So I'm kind of a little bit nervous here at this point. Yeah. I'm freaking out a bit. We've got no income at the moment. I've worked out that we've been conned. I've spent a lot of money. We've got our daughter who was on the way at the time, etc. So I started to kind of go down a legal route, which, by the way, isn't easy to do when you're in France. And naivety of youth, etc. When I signed a contract with this guy, he put it under a company name, which he just shut down basically. So I couldn't kind of get to him on an individual level. And I worked out that he moved over to Spain with a load of people's money. So anyway, cut a long story short, I had to move back to the UK. And, the problem is, by this time, we've been out in France for almost a year, and we'd had our daughter. And the problem is, if you haven't been working in the system for a year, you're almost kind of seen as this social leper. You've got no income, so we couldn't rent a property. We didn't have enough money to put a deposit down on a property because we'd spent so much. And it was a tough time. First 2 or 3 months, I had to spend, living around friends' houses with a newborn. I had to kind of set up a consultancy limited company around what I was kind of doing. And that, starting a business, as a lot of you guys sure know, isn't easy and takes time. And it was bringing in a great deal of money, 1,000 to 2,000, but that was enough for me to be able to at least get a property. And it wasn't great. And we were renting this awful place, which I had to kind of replace the carpets, the landlord, because I didn't want the baby crawling out. Horrendous. Anyway, so you're probably thinking, Ludo, when does this story get better? Because at the moment it doesn't sound great. Anyway, the bottom line is, I think ultimately, I don't know if anybody's been through that before, but when you've been conned, it is a nice feeling, and you feel ashamed of yourself, and you feel that you've let a lot of people down. In my case, I had my family to look after. I had a newborn, and you feel responsible that you've put all of your loved ones in this position. And the worst thing I kind of think as well was that I had all good intentions in wanting to be a good investor, and I had put all my heart, soul, income into it and seen nothing back. Yeah, so I had a decision to make, and it wasn't an easy one. Do I stop here and then go back to work and, go back to a place which I don't want to be at, which was the easy option? Or do I continue on that journey and see what we can do? Because when you've kind of lost everything, the only way up, the only direction is up. Yeah. And I kind of thought, literally, things can't get any worse, but we've got a property, we've got enough to get by every month. That was the most important thing. So this is where I kind of met Darren. And the funny thing is, I enrolled on his training course, which obviously you've been on, Robyn and Guy's been on about 5 or 6 years ago. And the funny thing is, I learned more in that 3 or 4 days than I did in about 9 months with the other guy. And that gave me the commitment to kind of make it work. And, it wasn't easy because I couldn't grow the account as quickly as I'd like because I need to take money out of it to pay for bills, etc. at times. But we get to a point where, doing that for the first kind of year, I managed to kind of grow my account, many, many times over. I got to a point where, that ultimately ended up starting to pay for my income. And because I'd done so well, Darren invited me to be part of his coaching team. And I'd say over the last 5 to 6 years, it's been a roller coaster. And it's gone from being on the training course to coaching individually between me and Guy over 2,000 people, being invited to speak at seminars with over 1,000 people live, speaking in London. Obviously, we're doing this chat now, which is great, but also other different things as well, to the point where recently I got invited to come along and actually teach university students on economics at University of York. And I've been approached to collaborate with the London Stock Exchange. So it's been an absolute roller coaster in terms of how we've kind of got to there. And now, me and Guy are kind of, teaching and working and training, the biggest investment company in the whole of Europe in the space of 5 years. So, and I think that's got to come down to kind of desire. And sometimes I'm not saying that everybody's got to kind of go through this awful transition and go through this amount of pain to be successful, but that certainly was my kind of driver. And that's what's kind of helped me to kind of get to where we are. And I think a big reason why me and Guy and Darren do what we do is, but all three of us, and obviously Guy will share his story, have been through a lot of pain. And, the power to be able to kind of give back and share and get people, amazing results, because we know that we don't want other people to go through what we've gone through. So, we've undertaken this mission to make things as, as easy for new people getting into investing, especially people who've got hang-ups on what investing is all about. People, I think, have got this idea of you need to call a stockbroker up and it's only the bankers and the institutions which can invest. We're actually in a golden age for retail investing. And I think that the power of, social media, we pick up on events like we would never have done before. A lot of online, a lot of brokers now, all online facilities, so you can trade from home, you can place your own trades, you can view the same charts and information which the big institutions have. So it's really kind of exciting. And I think that now that was a good time for us to get into, and I think it still is. And I think nowadays the big kind of thing, and at the time I didn't realize that, is for someone of our kind of generation, and the reason I wanted to get into investing is, who's going to look after you? Because, going back to my parents' generation, you'd have a good lump sum, you'd have a pen, you'd be looked after, you could retire early. That just doesn't exist a lot of the time for a lot of people. And I feel that you have to be aware of that and look after yourself, look after your family, and look to produce these secondary income streams. So that's kind of a little bit about me and how we've kind of got to this point, but I don't want to eat up too much airtime. I can see guys getting all excited over there and wants to kind of share.
No.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of me in a nutshell up to this point. So
it's a great story. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, Guy, let's hear yours.
Yeah, definitely. I think the great thing is that mine's actually quite different story, from a completely different angle. But I love listening to Ludo's story because obviously we've been very close for quite a long time now, and what we've done in the time that we've been together is amazing. And I know where he's been, he knows where I've been. He's probably know what I'm going to say now, but no, it's Ludo's done a fantastic job, and that's why I'm with him, and and we're with Darren as well. Really like-minded people, successful, have that drive, have that motivation, and it doesn't matter where you are, as long as you have that ambition to pick yourself up, then you'll go far. And Ludo's a great example of that, and hopefully I am as well. But yeah, a bit more about me. So obviously, I'll start right from the beginning. I won't take too long, but for me, how I got into trading and investing was, the main reason was probably my mum, in all honesty. And I think it's when you have a reason to want to do something, it's a huge driving force in whatever it is that you're going to embark, whatever journey you're going to embark on. And for myself and for Ludo, it was trading. And like I said, the reason why I got into trading was because of my mum. Now, a bit of a backstory. When I was 2 years old, I had my sister who is 5 years older than me, my mum. But my dad walked out on us when I was 2 years old, and in hindsight, probably a good idea that he done it then rather than halfway through my life or whatever. But what that taught me is that you can't really rely on anyone, other than your closest people. And if you want something done, then you've got to do it yourself. And when I went to school, went to college, I always used to like having a laugh, and I was quite clever, but didn't put as much time in as I maybe should have. But still, I was just eager to get out there to the working world, because that's what society is these days. You go out, you go to work, etc., etc. Now, when I went to work, and when I was a younger guy, I had all of these dreams, I had all of these ambitions that I wanted to buy my mum a house, buy her a car, have all of the time in the world, go on lovely holidays, buy expensive things, and the luxuries in life that we all love, and we desire. But when I got to the grand old age, I think it was 23 now, about 6-7 years ago, I was driving to work one Monday morning, and, in my car, it was raining outside, a lot like a lot of time it does in the UK. But I was driving to work one morning, and I just, Monday morning, I was thinking, I really don't want to go in today, I really don't want to go in today. But then that got me thinking. It was about an hour drive in, and it got me thinking really hard about, when I was younger, what I wanted to do when I was older. And I sort of sat back in my car, and I was thinking, am I where I want to be, in comparison to what I wanted when I was younger? And the very, very simple answer was no. Had I bought mum a house? No, I hadn't. Had I bought her a car? No, I hadn't. Did I have loads of nice holidays? No, I didn't. And the reason why is because I was stuck at work behind a desk that I didn't really want to do and didn't really want to be there. And I think it's the same for a lot of people. And I was quite fortunate because I realized this quite early on. And for me, it was a very easy decision to make, because at the end of the day, what it all boiled down to is that I wasn't where I wanted to be. But I didn't want to focus on the problem. I wanted to focus on the solution. So as you do, got to work, started doing a bit of Googling, a bit of research. How can I make extra money? How can I, get myself more time so I can start, achieving these goals and, ultimately make my mum proud. And I think she is proud anyway. She was proud anyway, but, I wanted to make her super proud, and give her the things that she could never afford, because, we never had any money. We couldn't buy the new trainers that I wanted. I couldn't have the new PlayStations and go on the fancy holidays because we just didn't have the money. Mum was working 2 jobs. She was feeding 2 children, no support at all from dad whatsoever. Still haven't seen him to this day as well, and don't really want to, just to keep you updated. But it's definitely a massive secret to my success, I would say. But, channeling that energy into something was so powerful. And for a lot of people, that want to trade, and we see it day in, day out, it's for more time. It's for, more time with their kids, to have a secondary income, to get out of their primary jobs, and to do the things that we all want to do and that we deserve to do at the end of the day, because we're all given one chance on this planet. And why shouldn't we be able to do what we want to do? But unfortunately, people get sucked into a trap a lot of the time, which is probably a lot out of their control. So when I was Googling, when I was researching about how to make money online, one thing that kept on reoccurring was trading and investing. Now, I was quite naive. I thought, well, to trade and invest, you need loads of money, you need time, you need qualifications, etc., etc. And when I come across Darren online, it sort of really grabbed me. It really struck me and hit me hard that actually you don't need all of them things. It's quite cliche. So I thought, I'm going to go and enroll. I'm going to go and enroll onto the event. Went along, and my God, I was absolutely blown away, because he explained it in such a way which actually simplified things. And that just drew me in. And, I wanted to be part of his program, his mentorship program. And, I didn't have the money, but then I'm thinking to myself, this is exactly the reason why I'm here in the first place. It's because I don't have the money to do the things that I wanted to do. So, I took a big step. I'd been with Darren for a few days. He seemed absolutely fantastic, a really great guy, really genuine, very smart, knew what he was doing. So I thought, sometimes in life you need to take that calculated risk. And at that point in time, that was for me. So went along and I've done it. And the world just opened up to me. And, after 2-3 months, I really was understanding about how markets moved, about market cycles. It's not about, one shoe fits all. It's about one shoe fits, it's not about one shoe fits all, sorry, it's about what shoe fits you. And that, again, really hit me hard, because at the end of the day, you know, you can't ram a square peg into a round hole. It has to fit, and it has to fit flush. And I think for a lot of retail traders these days, you know, they might find it difficult because they're probably not following the right strategy. And this is, again, you know, I won't go into too much detail because we're probably going to talk about it a little bit later, but this is when, you know, I started to see success, because I understood what works for me, what I wanted to focus on. I learned so much, but I sort of filtered it down and channeled it down into a streamlined process that worked for me. And lo and behold, you know, started making money. And I thought, oh, okay, cool. Month one, made a nice amount of money. Let's see what happens in month two. Then month two, made a lovely amount of money, even more. Month three, made even more. And it was at that stage where I thought, well, I'm making more money when I go home to trade than I am spending 10 to 12 hours in the office. So I made the decision to quit my job. Quite bold. You know, I didn't have any kids or anything like that. You know, I was, you know, quite lucky in that sort of sense that I had a bit more freedom, especially then Ludo, you know, a lot of responsibility on his shoulders.
Lie down.
Can't say that was me, but I understood that, you know, like I said, you can make money. And once you understand your system, understand a process, the world of compounding is incredible, you know, because if you make 10% in month one, but then you make 10% in month 12, well, you're doing the same thing, but you're making a heck of a lot more money in month 12 because you've grown your account. And that's what trading is gearing you up for. That's where you need to be. And that's ultimately what we teach. So as time went on, you know, about a year went through, and I was just making some incredible results. And this caught the eye of Darren. Okay. And I was sort of sending through into the email, like, this is what I'm doing. Thank you so much. You know, this is just, you know, I can see this is going to get me to, you know, the millions and the billions, et cetera, et cetera. And I was just really thankful. And, you know, in the end, he actually gave me a call, and we spoke, and I was telling him about what we was doing. And he was like, well, how would you feel about teaching my clients as well? Because obviously you're very successful in your own trading. You're making a lot of money. How would you feel about teaching? I was like, to be honest, I'd really enjoy that. I've never taught anyone before, but obviously I've taught a few friends and family and stuff like that, but I've never taught, you know, paying clients, etc. And that was possibly one of the best decisions I think I've ever, probably even better than the decision to start trading in the first place. It's very, very close, but it was one of the best decisions because you learn so much by teaching. You know, you really, really do. You learn so much by teaching. Me and Ludo, you know, this is sort of how we met in the end. And, you know, we're very like-minded people, and this is why we gel very, very well. We've got the same goals, the same drive, the same ambitions. You know, we've both got reasons to why we want to trade and invest and make more money, etc. And, you know, over the past 5 years, we've taught almost over 2,000 people each, you know, almost 4,000 people one-to-one between us. But what that gives us is invaluable experience and knowledge and insight into so many different types of people, okay, and what they're going through and why they're wanting to learn how to trade, but also as well, their learning styles, okay. And this is how we come to the money maker matrix, which we'll talk about in a moment. But that knowledge and that experience helped us in order to understand that it's not about one shoe fits all. It's about what shoe fits you. And, you know, different types of strategies and styles suit different types of people, you know. And it's like, you know, I always say to people, if you pull 10 people off the street randomly right now, okay, those 10 people are going to be different sizes, different heights, different shapes, colors, religions, ages, goals, targets, amounts of capital, amounts of time in the day. They're all completely different. That's what I'm trying to get at. And understanding people and, you know, the way that they operate and their restraints and their goals and targets, it really helps us to understand what way we should be teaching people. And we'll come on to it in a minute. I believe we were talking before about it, Robyn, and I know you want to talk about it in a moment, but that's what got us to where we are now. And that's why we completely understand how trading and investing works and the different elements that are compiled to make a successful trading plan. And me and Ludo, what we've done and what using our knowledge and using our experience, we've been able to tackle a huge diversity issue within the retail trading space, you know, because there's lots of people on Instagram and Facebook. Oh yeah, pay me $100. You can have unlimited access to my coaching program, this, that, and the other. And then you'll pay your $100, and then you might get a couple of trades right to begin with. Think, oh, this is great, and then all of a sudden, it all falls off the edge of a cliff, and that's the same because they don't actually really know what they're doing. Number one. Secondly, they're just trying to sell courses. But thirdly, which is more important, they haven't got the experience in teaching hundreds and thousands of people. Okay, they haven't got that, which is, if you're teaching people and you're educating people on how to trade and how to invest, you need to experience that yourself. Okay, not only be successful in trading yourself and master that and tackle that, but also understand how to teach people and what they need. That's the most important. It's not about what we need, it's about what you need. And then being able to have someone and being taught in a way that facilitates what you need. And that's ultimately where me and Ludo have come together, and Darren as well. And we've created what we've created, which I'm sure we're going to talk about more a bit more in a moment. But that's more about me. But I think anyone with a reason, anyone with a drive, and like I said, mainly a reason to do something, and you channel that energy into what it is that you're trying to achieve, you'll get there 100 times quicker. And that's really important, I feel. So yeah, that's more about me, and I won't go on much longer.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic story. And I can just say I also did Darren's course a year ago and signed up for the apprenticeship program. And I just like to talk a little bit about Darren before we go on, because just to put it in perspective for people, Darren, he also started with nothing. He also, needed money, and he also had responsibilities. But what he did over time was that he invested heavily in learning from the best, and he paid to go and learn from the best traders in the world. And what I love about him is that he then filtered that through. So he filtered, it's a shortcut to learning. So it was a shortcut for both of you. It was certainly a shortcut for me.
Absolutely.
So that you can drown out the noise and zoom in on exactly what one needs to learn, and hence starting the Wealth Training Company. And it is just so fantastic that he has scaled that by finding the talent. And we'll talk about your money-making matrix, but you've done that as well. People that have come into your program have become very talented and are now doing the same. So let's talk a little bit about the program that you guys developed. And I love your story on how you came up with the idea. So please share that with us.
Yeah, and I think just to kind of add to that as well, in terms of Darren, Darren has been doing this for 25 years, and he's successfully coached in, whether it's on stage, over 500,000 people. And I think, like you said, Robyn, he is where he's at because he's invested in himself by learning from the best. So he's worked with people like John Bollinger, created Bollinger Bands, a very powerful indicator. He's been on stage with people like Richard Branson, and and I think, like you said, when me and Guy I think why we were able to get to where we wanted to be very quickly is that we just, we were like sponges. We just wanted to absorb as much information from him as possible, and put, what he essentially investing, I think, can be sometimes a bit of a very complex subject. But the ability to be able to kind of deconstruct it and put it into a bite-sized format for people to digest is really what helps people to kind of bridge the gap between I'm here, I know nothing about it, to at least getting involved. And again, if we hadn't have done that training course, we wouldn't be where we're at today. But I think where this is now kind of evolved, and this is where it gets super exciting, is the fact that, like I mentioned, from a coaching perspective, we've coached thousands of people individually. And I think what that kind of gives you is a very rounded approach to investing, because what we kind of understood is that there are different strategies when it comes to investing. You've got long-term, which is typically where you're buying and holding stocks and shares for maybe 6 months to 12 months plus. You've got things like swing trading, which is typically a bit better for compounding your account a bit faster, where you might be in a trade for a few days to maybe up to a month. You've got kind of your medium term, which might be 3-4 months, and then you've got your day trading in and out of the same day. And the problem is a lot of people don't know how to adapt that process on an individual level. And what me and Guy kind of discovered, especially coaching this amount of people, we were thinking, why can we teach this person this particular strategy? They get it. We do it ourselves and it works. But then we teach somebody else completely the same, somebody completely different, the exact same strategy. And it's not because they're not putting in the work all the time, but they're not getting it. Why is that? And that's where me and Guy kind of, came to, to the kind of idea that, everybody's different. Everybody's going to have different ways of digesting information. Some people are going to be more left brain than others. They're going to work better with numbers and all that kind of side of things. Some people are going to look and read into things more on the creative side, on the right side of things. And I think this kind of leads into where we were able to take our learning ability, our success, and merge that in with, the strong foundations that Darren has kind of put in place. And this is where the last 18 months, in my opinion, have been, completely a breakthrough in terms of how retail investing is delivered in this particular space. And I think this is the kind of fun part, I suppose, for us, Guy, in terms of how this all came to fruition. But bottom line is, me and Guy like to, we like to do nice things. We like to eat in nice restaurants, essentially. Good job we can only see up to about here, because we're missing the kind of stomach part of where we're at. But we like to do nice things. We like to eat in nice restaurants. And I think what happened was we'd gone for a tough lockdown. And especially, I think we really appreciated at that point in time. For us, this is where we were the most successful, because, a lot of people, unfortunately, at this point in time, were realizing, do you know what? My job security isn't safe. What am I going to do? I'm stuck indoors. I'm not making any income. And we know some people, it's kind of been feast or famine. Some people, it's been disastrous. Some people have found opportunity to generate new business, or it's worked better for them. However, you kind of sit on that fence. The bottom line is, and I think this is why this has been so important, and why we kind of put this together over this period of time, is that a lot of people were starting to look more at the investment space. And if we look at the US stock market, we had a crash back in February, March 2020. This is when the pandemic hit the fan. Everyone was panicking. We went into lockdown. Here's the funny thing, guys. Markets have never, ever gone up so high since that particular point in time. So over the last 2 years, we've experienced the most aggressive bull run in market history. You've got to ask yourself the question, why is that? Why is it that the economy's on its knees? Industries aren't able to work. Nothing's happening. Commerce is down, et cetera, et cetera. Governments are having to bail out citizens, et cetera, all this kind of thing. They're the sort of questions that a lot of people were kind of asking themselves. And the bottom line is because a lot of investors and a lot of the banks, et cetera, they knew that the best return on investment throughout that period in time was via the stock market. And here's the thing, people are sat down indoors, they can't work. What are you going to do? Well, guess what? That was a good time for a lot of people to start to think, actually, I need to look at something different, because, if this happens again, I'm going to lose my business, or I'm not going to be able to put money away or look after my retirement, or I'm going to have to sell various assets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that puts a lot of stress on the individual. And I think ultimately, this was a really important time for a lot of people to kind of move into that space. And you probably noticed that a lot more people are talking about investing, et cetera. People are getting more involved in that particular space. And for me and Guy, that was a time for reflection. And that was a time for us to kind of think about what it is what we were doing, and obviously looking back on the things which we've been doing. And essentially what kind of happened coming out of lockdown, like I said, me and Guy, we like to go out, we like to eat in nice places. We actually went down to a really nice restaurant near Guy in Ipswich in the UK. And first time we were out, we had a really nice meal, and we kind of got into this deep kind of conversation as to, actually, we're talking about our clients, but why is it I do things a certain way and you do things a certain way, but we both learn and use the same strategies, but we get completely different results, and we do things completely differently, but it both works for us. And that's where we kind of went down this rabbit hole with, people are different. People are, have different characteristics, different people have different time constraints, goals, capital, etc. So to just say, here's a strategy, off you go with it, isn't realistic. And that's where, some people will get it, but the vast majority won't unless you're in sync with that particular person's coaching style or within that particular strategy. And this is where, and Guy, you probably want to finish off this part of the story, but it's kind of funny. I mean, I'll let you finish how we kind of evolved from this point.
Yeah, I think what Ludo said is absolutely spot on. It's completely correct, and it does come down to different types of people, and people make decisions in different ways. You put someone and say you've got to go right, you've got to go left. Well, some people will go right, some people will go left. But if you put right, left, or straight, some people go left, some people go right, some people go straight, and it's just how people make decisions. And having that experience with working with so many people one-to-one, it really led us to understand where people go right and where people go wrong. And that's sort of where we come to the conclusion now. And when we were sitting down in the restaurant after stuffing our faces with 3 courses, we like a whiskey as well. We do like a good whiskey, and we ordered a bottle of whiskey or bottle of a glass. I can't remember if it was a bottle or a glass. It must have been a bottle because we were there a little while. But we actually started writing on the back of the order, basically, because in COVID, you had to write it down and give it to the waitress because there was all these restrictions and stuff like that. And we thought, well, all right, we've got a pencil here. And we just started jotting things down. And in the end, hours later, we've ended up walking out and we've just got 7 or 8 of these tickets, and we've just got these designs and these structures and these processes all jotted down. And when we walked out, it was funny because I remember it to this day. When we walked out, the waiter was looking at us, and he's sort of just looking at us, being like, so what's all? Why do you need all of that sort of thing? And you've been here ages. We've been watching you. So you'll find out. You'll find out what this is. But I can tell you, this is pioneering, this stuff. And we'll go more into the story in a moment, but it really was.
We kind of knew this was going to make.
Yeah, it was going to be a hit. And we went back that night, didn't we? I think we was up until like 5 o'clock in the morning. We just couldn't get enough of it. Yeah. I had a whiteboard, and we had pens, and we were just writing stuff down. We were drawing mind maps and all. And then this is where we had to make a decision. Really, a lot like when Darren first started out with his company, we had to make decisions like, we've gone down quite a big rabbit hole here, but we know it's probably going to be very, very worth it. And we took on the decision. We thought, right, we need to sort of get a structure into place, which we'd sort of been doing a lot that night, and sort of just show Darren the idea and explain to him the ideas and the reasoning behind it. And we did that, and it was
Well, I mean, we pretty much started to merge everything. We were looking at the experience, the simplicity, the processes that Darren had. And what we did is we looked at how we could deconstruct that onto an individual level, to the point where we created this money maker mind map, which ultimately takes individuals for a process where there are 400 different combinations. And out of those 400 different combinations, one is the perfect fit for that individual. Because we looked at everything from individual archetypes, because investors have different priorities. We have investors which are direct in their approach. They want results fast. There are people who are more creative, who want to be able to enjoy investing, and they want it to be more in sync with their lifestyle. We've got people who are more passive, who just want to make money the simplest possible way. We've got people who are constantly looking to create systems and building consistency. We've got people who are more visionary with their investing. So we started to create these different profiles, these different archetypes around investing, and each had their strengths, their weaknesses, but people started to resonate with that. And when you can kind of help people to understand who they are and what personality they are within the market, then we can kind of direct them towards which strategies work better for them. And again, we started to look at, how much capital you've got, how much time you've got, because some strategies are going to be more demanding than others. Some are going to work better with smaller capital. You're going to maybe, if you're starting off with smaller capital, going to want to kind of compound the account faster to get it where it needs to be. If you've already got capital, it might just be more cash flow, or making money the most kind of safest, easiest way. So when you start to put that through, we started to look at different strategies which would mirror up with it. We started to look at where individuals should invest based on which strategies work well. Should they be investing in the stock market? Should they be investing in Forex? Should they be investing in commodities, bonds? Should they be, investing in indices or the crypto space? Because each have their advantages, disadvantages. So when you start to put this massive spider web together and you kind of put people through this process, what we found is that we found a way of being able to help investors create their own unique traders DNA. So it's the kind of, epicenter of everything that they should be doing. You need to know your traders DNA, because a lot of investors that we've met, they don't know what they're doing. They haven't got good foundations. They think, oh, I'll do a bit of day trading and spend 6 months there, lose their money or don't make any money, get frustrated, either don't continue investing, which is really sad, or they try something different. Same thing happens. So having a system in place or an understanding of, what's going to work best for you to start with is half the battle won. And then from there, it was taking individuals through a process that's unique to them, which we call the try trading system, don't we, Guy, with Darren? And it's all about, first of all, the setup, how to find, the right company that meets the right strategy, how to build your watch list, how to know when to get into trades, how to manage trades, all this kind of system, and ultimately how to, recycle that wealth over a short to medium to long-term plan. And that's kind of how Moneymaker Matrix works. And I think that the powerful thing is when we kind of merged that with Darren's, all the best stuff that Darren's got over the last 25 years, whilst bringing in this whole traders DNA aspect was just mind blowing. And we tested that out about 12 months ago, and you were on there as well, Robyn. And obviously you could probably see that the evolution of what's been happening over the last sort of few years. And bottom line is, the proof's in the pudding, and the results from the guys who have been on that training course were just off the scale. So it's been such an exciting time for all of us at Wealth Training, and it's just been really fantastic, and it's allowed us to help people on an individual level, and find a way of being able to deliver that can be quite challenging, because a lot of the reason why other investment companies or teach the way they do is because to teach someone a generic system is a lot easier than being able to actually spend time with that individual to make sure they're getting good results. And it's no easy task, but that's where we've kind of created this flexible system that is very, very unique to the individual. So that, being on that training, they're absolutely clear with what their individual traders DNA is. And that's what's really cool. And that's what's taken us about 2 years to kind of build with Darren, but it was worth it. And we love it, and we enjoy it even more. But yeah, so that's kind of how we kind of got to this stage, I suppose, isn't it, Guy? So
yeah, exactly. And I think the results speak for themselves.
And obviously, Robyn, you've been on it. You probably compare the two as well, So
and I love how it structures and organizes your whole system. And I think it's incredible. But I also want to add that you both provide so much value to whoever signs up, because there is that individual attention, but then you also run these trade clinics. So it's once a week, alternating between a Thursday and a Saturday. People submit their trades to you, and you go through and analyze those trades and analyze the market. And it's a lot of reinforcement. And I found those clinics to be so useful, because eventually you learn the language, and eventually start to see what everybody is seeing, and then you can be successful in your trade. So I think you provide so much value. It really
I think it's important, but thank you. It's lovely to hear that as well. We really appreciate that, and that's what makes doing what we do so worthwhile. But I think the other thing as well is, we've invested heavily in a lot of different training courses ourselves, and I'd love to say all of them have been great. Obviously, I've had some pretty horrific ones, as we discovered earlier on, but the bottom line is, how are you going to get somewhere with 1 hour coaching session a month? 1 hour a month isn't enough. And this is why we run things like the trade clinic, so that there's a minimum 2-3 hour touch point every single week, just at that level, not even including, what we do with people individually and what we do on the group sessions and live trading days, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're the sort of person that wants to get those results, you have to be around people who are doing it inside out and mirror and mimic what it is that they're doing. And the more amount of time that we can give them, especially when they're first starting out, the more committed they're going to be, the more excited they're going to be about it, the less lonely and daunting it's going to be, because investing can be a bit scary, especially when you're first starting out. You know, typically that's where you're probably going to make the most mistakes. That's where you're going to have the most questions. But actually being around people who are doing it, and, you know, successful investors who are doing it week in, week out, and seeing what they're doing takes a lot of the, you know, the scary side, the stress out of the situation, you know. And that's why we design things the way we do, you know.
Yeah, I'd also like to just say, from a woman's perspective, you know,
Yeah.
I have friends who are moms, who are wives and moms, and, you know, drowning in their everyday lives, but they want to be able to earn their own money. They want to be able to, you know, zone out of the kids' world and zoom into a world where they can learn and contribute to their families. And I think that it's quite important for women to know that they can learn this. This is, I'm sure that, I know that there's some fantastic.
I find that women traders can be even better than men, tend to be better than men, and a lot of it comes down to psychology. And we talk a lot about psychology, and we talk about, you know, I'm not going to go into it now, but a topic which we call the 6 deadly sins, which is greed, fear, you know, all these kind of emotional things, and pride especially. And the problem is, men don't tend to like to be wrong when it comes to investing, and tend to make certain mistakes which women won't make. And actually, you know, when we started with Darren, we actually got taught by his head coach, Tanya. And, you know, she's taken accounts when she started with Darren. We're going back even further. When we started, she started off with 1,000, turned it into 1 million in 2.5 years, which is insane. And, you know, even some of the coaches that we've worked to train up, I mean, we've got Sarah, who's one of our best coaches as well. So I think a lot of the time, and like you said, it's nice because typically, especially for me, I mean, my girlfriend, she doesn't work, and it's not just because of the money side of it, it's because we've got 2 children, and one, it wouldn't be worth it in all honesty for her to work, other than maybe the free headspace away from the children. But it actually works out to be counterproductive, and it's better because we get to spend time with the kids, all of us together. But guess what, there are a lot of people doing that, a lot of women which are doing that, and they've got a lot of time in some cases where they might have time at home where they can actually do this kind of thing. And when we first started, I'm obviously a big believer of this as well, as me and my girlfriend, we both started this kind of journey together. She was doing it with me as well. So, you know, and that's the kind of nice thing you get to bounce off. I think if you've got someone to do it with is always nice. You've got to be careful with it, because sometimes it can be counterproductive. As I learned early days, you end up talking each other out of what you want to do and things like that. But I just feel that there's a place for anyone, you know, no matter who you are within, you know, within the investment space. And I think it's just about understanding and carving out where your kind of slice of success is, because there's enough money to go around. I think I saw a really interesting stat not too long ago that if you devised the world's wealth individually, everyone would have about £2 million each. So there's enough money going around. Absolutely. It's about, and that's crazy, yeah. So you've got to think to yourself, well, where's my money gone? You know, well, who's got my money if you're in that position? Yeah. And there's plenty to go around. That's the main thing. And it's just about understanding what strategy, what process is going to work best for you, and being patient. You know, I think we were chatting about this before, Robyn. You mentioned about, you know, how quickly can it take to be successful, and I think sometimes it's easier said than done. I think a lot of what I kind of find, I think Guy will probably agree with me in terms of people who are successful, and how quickly it can take. Typically, it's people who are disciplined with their routine. Yeah. And I always like to use this analogy with people is, you know, let's say that we go, you know, it's Christmas time, we eat a lot of food, and, you know, we've, you know, got a little bit crazy, we put a bit of weight on, and then it gets to New Year's Day, and we kind of think, right, I need these new resolutions on, I get this car this year, I need to lose this amount of weight, etc. And, you know, some of us will join the gym, but then what we'll do is we'll go crazy. We'll go to the gym every single day for 2 weeks, and we'll burn ourselves out, and we'll expect to get a 6-pack within 6 to 8 weeks. And when that doesn't happen, we lose interest and we give up. But the person who doesn't go crazy, who goes to the gym 3 or 4 hours every single week consistently, they're the people who get results. Yeah. And, you know, some people it comes faster than others. You know, sometimes you can be a little bit lucky, but typically, you know, it really depends on different things, starting capital, how much time, the commitment of the individual. But, you know, me and Guy look to get people, you know, generating good income after, you know, 3 to 6 months. Some people might be a little bit sooner, some might be a little bit later. We've had somebody, well, I've coached, a few people I've coached, but they've not made any money for the whole first year pretty much, or it's taken them a long time to get through it, and then they've exploded after the second year. Some people start off quick, and then kind of learn mistakes further along and slow down. So it is a very unique approach. Everyone's journey is different. And that again kind of ties into why we do MMM, because some people everyone will kind of think, well, I want to be doing 20% a month, but you've got £200,000 in your account. You might just be happy with 5%, so it is very, very different. And, I think when we were copying trades with Darren would say, this is a great trade, guys, you've got to get into it. And this is when we're first starting out. And I think, okay, well, I've made a couple of £100 this week, Darren. It's good. I'm not going to complain, but it's not amazing. But he'd be like, well, I've made £200,000 on it, but he'd be playing with a different account. So do you see what I mean? So we often try and create shortcuts for ourselves by copy trading, and it never really works out, because, investing is a very unique situation. That's why I love it as well, is because no one can let you down other than you. If you're running businesses and different things like that, you've got to rely on staff, etc. You've got all this kind of thing. With investing, it's you and a computer at home, and it's how much you want to risk. And most of it, I'd say where 80% of your investing is between here and here. That's where 80% of it lies. And that's why we're so on the kind of psychology side of it, and processes, and, taking that kind of unique approach to it, So, yeah.
That's so good to know. But let's talk about the market. Can you tell us why is now a really good time to invest and get into?
Why is now a good time to invest? I mean, great question. Obviously, I'll give my opinion. Obviously, I'm sure Ludo will give his. But why is now a great time to invest? Well, think about the market in general. Okay, the market. Let's take the stock market for example. Okay, the stock market has been around for 50 years, give or take. But yet we're at all-time highs. All of the time, and that's just how the genetic buildup of the market works. Because at the end of the day, people are going to the stock market. People that investing large quantities of money, etc., flocking to the stock market so that they can make their annual returns, their quarterly returns, etc., etc. And it's the best and probably easiest platform in order to make money. But if it's not going up all of the time, especially for long-term investors, then it's going to be difficult for them to make the returns that they want. Okay, so what you'll find is that you might have a cycle where it's coming down for a little bit, but then you will always see that cycle surpass its high, the highest point that it was at, and go on and create new highs. And that's just been a rotating hamster wheel for the past 50 years, whereas, it goes up, pops down a little bit, then goes up. So it's about understanding on where to buy. Okay, now what's around these days, especially, crypto markets, stock market, you got, Forex, commodities. There's so many things that you can trade. And this is why it's super beneficial for a retail trader, someone that's just trading their own money. And in the last sort of 10 years, that's where we've seen, the step up in digitalization of, retail trading. And when things pass the highs at all times, like it always has, it's a psychological element. Okay. Markets work in cycles. And, it's like Ludo, like you say, you buy a house when it's cheap. Okay, you sell it when it's high. Okay, but if you buy the house when it's high, you might be getting in at the wrong end of the cycle, which then, eventually it will make money, but you're not going to be making money straight away within the first 6 months, 12 months or whatever. So first things first is understanding that cycle. Now, the stock market, we're in a bit of a bear market at the moment. It's coming back up for the short term. Okay, but, it goes up, comes down, goes up, comes down. And it's about understanding the bigger picture. But what's great in this day and age is cryptocurrency. And I'm sure, everyone that's going to watch this has heard of Bitcoin and Ethereum and things like that. You don't have to be a genius to understand it. But what you do need to understand is that, again, crypto market, as it's been developed further and further, and it's integrating more into our lives as every day, week, month, year goes by, that breeds a wealth of opportunity. Now, why it's important to be investing right now is because looking at the crypto market, we'll take Bitcoin for an example. Right now, if you were to buy and hold Bitcoin and wait for that cycle to come to fruition and surpass all-time highs, etc., when it gets to the all-time high, we're looking at 200%. There's other cryptos out there which are 500%, 900%, 1,000%. But at the end of the day, the point that I'm trying to make here is that if you're not within this sort of way of thinking or within this space, you're never going to be able to take advantage and take opportunity. And at the moment, there's incredible opportunity. You know, I'm loading up now. I know the guys are as well. I'm looking at my entry levels and buying and holding crypto. And Robyn, you said you're on the trade clinic, you know, and that, again, we discussed this live. We've got nowhere to hide. We're happy to put our money where our mouth is. No problem at all, because what we know is we know it works. Okay. And we know how markets work. We know how cycles work, etc. And for example, one guy, I think he was working with yourself, Ludo. I think, you know, a lot of people that turn up to the trade clinic, you know, they're actually get quite lazy, because the trades that we analyze on a weekly basis are, you know, they just come on, they just pick them, and that's it. And there was one guy, Scott, and, you know, he actually, we recommended a trade in a cryptocurrency, Dogecoin. And there was a lot of hype around this particular crypto, done a bit of research into it, could look like a good opportunity. It was worth a little bit of money. And Scott's got a nice amount of money. Okay, and he invested 5K. At the point in which we said to invest in. He's an action taker. You know, he's a guy that just, no, okay, I'm going to listen to these guys. They know what they're doing. They've not let me down. So, and he done it. And the funny thing is that he actually forgot. And, you know, this is probably one of our best trades. It absolutely took off. And 3 months later, I think it was 2.5, 3 months later, Ludo, I think you said, and I think I'll remind him on the trade clinic. He's like, Scott, did you invest into Dogecoin? He's like, yeah, I put $5,000. Actually, I haven't actually checked my account. I was like, I think you want to check it now. And he opened up his account, and he had 400 grand in there, literally from a 5K. And he just put it in there, and he forgot about it, which was what's hilarious. And he's just sell. He's going. But again, it's because he's within this space that he managed to capitalize on the opportunity. And, you know, I don't know if you want to go into a bit more detail, Ludo, but it's just,
no, I mean, I think
this space now, you have to, because there's so much money that could be made.
I think you've kind of answered it quite well. I mean, the bottom line is, you know, being around us, you know, people sending us trades, they're keeping themselves accountable. Obviously, look, Scott can be a little bit lazy and likes just to copy trades now, which is great. But look, our kind of goal is that we want people to feel comfortable in their own ability to be able to do this long term, because investing is long term. It's something that sticks with you for life, you know. And, you know, it doesn't mean you've got to be spending hours and hours on it. You know, if you're doing your long-term investing, you might spend an hour a month managing that portfolio. If you're doing something like swing trading, you might be spending, you know, a couple of hours a week. Obviously, if you're spending day trading, you're going to be more proactive. And a lot of people feel that, this is where I went wrong when I first started with Darren. I think we associate in general as individuals that the more time I spend means more money. Yeah. And it's actually not always the case. In fact, seldom the case. It's about working smart. It's about quality over quantity. And when I first started with Darren, obviously you heard the story earlier, but at the time I had a really poor relationship with money and a lot of stress. And I actually thought, well, I've got all this time because I've not worked, etc. I'm doing some consultancy. So I'm going to do day trading. And actually, I spent a lot more time on day trading. Didn't make any money for the first couple of months. Made absolutely no money. And then the funny thing is, when I was chatting to Darren said, look, you need to, you know, ease off that. You know, day trading is emotionally stressful. You need to know what you're doing. You've only started with us for a couple of months. Switch to the swing trading. Irony is, switch to the swing trading, doubled my account the next month, and spent literally a tenth of the time investing. And I was like, right, okay, this is what I need to be doing. Yeah, you know, so everybody's different again. But yeah, that's, I think, you know, typically swing trading is a really nice go between everything. Day trading is kind of your extravagancies. If you've got extra time, you know, you make some good money, you get to go away on holiday. Kind of did that, had a nice trade I did about 10,000 on, took the family to Greece a few weeks ago. That's nice. You know, your swing trading is your lifestyle, because you're only spending a couple of hours on the weekend. You know, that's kind of managing your portfolio, looking at what opportunities are coming to fruition. And then you're spending 5 minutes a day because you're just looking at what's happening at the end of the day. So a lot of people working 9 to 5, you know, that tends to work quite well with them. And in general, it works well for me because, you know, I don't want to do day trading all the time. The reason I got into this is to have more time. I don't want to be sat in front of the computer doing trading all day. You know, I've done that. It was fun. It's good fun at times, but it's good to have a balance of all three. And I think your long term is your capital growth, your assets. It's your, you know, your kind of nest egg, your pension pot. Your swing trading is kind of keep you proactive, compound your account, cover the bills, mortgage, etc., etc. Your day trading is if you've got more time and you want to boost your profits, ultimately it's good to have a balance or three, but when you're first starting out, I'd say stick to the one which, makes the most sense for you at this point in time. Yeah.
And let's look at the idea of what's traditional, running a business, and what are the benefits of trading versus investing your money and building a business and dedicating your life to that?
Great question. I think depends on the business, but I think when you look at investing, and let's say a property business maybe, or a traditional, like maybe a physical business where you've got a store. If you're looking at investing, what are the costs up front? Well, you need a laptop or a computer, which pretty much everybody in this day and age are going to have. Most people who listen to this interview are going to be on some sort of device, right? Or they're not going to be able to view it. So that's kind of a given nowadays in society that everybody's got that. And to set up a trading account or a broker account, it's free to do so. And then it just comes down to how much you've got to invest. And you can start as little as $250 with a lot of these. So, and the difference is because you've got the flexibility to decide whether or not you want to be a long-term investor, medium-term, short-term investor, you can make sure that the time allowance that you've got works for you. Yeah. So it is very easy. And like we said, you've got access to information online nowadays. There are tools which you can use to help streamline your investing so that it can help you to find opportunities faster. That we cover a lot about that systemization. You can systemize your trades by, putting stop losses, what we call stop losses, which allow people to kind of limit their losses on trades and maximize their profits. You can set up alerts for trades that you're waiting to get into without having to look at the screen 24 hours a day, etc. So it's very easy to be able to do that. If we look at, for example, owning a property business, or maybe, having a store where we sell groceries, for example, what do you got to do? Well, you need a store. So how much is that going to cost you? So straight away, we're going to need money to maybe purchase a property or get a mortgage on a property. We're going to have to pay gas, electricity, etc., which isn't cheap at the moment, as we all know, with inflation and the kind of energy crisis going on around the world at the moment. Then you've got to find staff, so we take a lot of risk up front, and then you're relying on other people. If you find some great staff, happy days. But if you've got somebody who's not doing a good job, who's hemorrhaging money, making bad decisions, so it's a lot of time as well. And if the business isn't well structured, in some cases it can be great because it allows you more cash flow and more time if it's been well structured. But you're putting a lot of time and upfront risk a lot of the time into building that business, marketing costs, etc. So the big difference is as well, if you look at, even if you're buying a property, typically if you double your money on a property over 10 years, you've done a good job, right? Now, difference is you've got investments which will double over the course of the year. Yeah. Typically a lot of people which we teach, especially on long-term investing, they tend to do 100% return on investment per year. You're lucky if you get that in 10 years. So it's faster growth as well. If you know how to manage your risk versus your reward, and you're being smart, and it doesn't mean risking loads of money to make loads of money. It's about having numbers on your side, having probability on your side, having, risk reward on your side, and you're going to make some good money. As simple as that.
And also what Darren taught us, and which you guys reinforced as well, is just having the system and the discipline. And I'd like to draw the parallels. I feel in the medical profession, we are very disciplined. We have to be.
Absolutely.
Of how we study, how we conduct ourselves with our patients. We've got to, comply with all the laws and the regulations and all the rest of it. So we already have that personality. So I feel it is a very good fit for medical professionals to align themselves with trading. And also you have the benefit of compound interest. That is just gold when it comes to wanting to make money. Now we only have a few more minutes. So I just want to ask you guys, what are you going to be teaching us at the summit? Because you've got 90 minutes with us. What are you going to be teaching?
Well, we've got some exciting stuff. So obviously Darren is going to be taking that session forward. So we've got Darren. Everyone's going to see the big man in person. So it's going to be great. So we're going to have him teaching a really kind of powerful 90-minute session, and he's going to be teaching you, what's really important about when it comes to investing. And you're going to kind of have an overall kind of view in terms of what it is that you need in order to be successful. And I think it's going to be really important for anybody in your space who's looking beyond what they're doing within their personal lives, their business, their jobs, etc., for looking at, wealth long term. It's not get rich quick, it's get rich properly, it's get rich over time, it's get rich for life, And all you got to think about is if your money's sat in the bank at the moment and you're getting 1% interest, and inflation's at 9%, you're losing 8% a year by having your money sat in the bank, as opposed to investing into, assets which are going to become, produce cash flow for the rest of your life potentially, So it's imperative. And I think and this is a fact, I think any person who's reached a real level of financial stability in their life will know that you need multiple income streams, to be successful, to take the pressure off, especially nowadays where things are less predictable. And I think, now there's no better time to be an investor based on the kind of stuff that we've been talking. So look, I think you guys are going to have a great time as well. So, but yeah, that's Guy. I don't know if you've got anything to kind of add, but
no, I think it's just, it's super exciting, and you're going to get extreme value from the course, and you're going to learn lots of good techniques, up to date, current, and like I said, be there. It's you want to take the opportunity. Definitely, you're going to be blown away.
And I think what is also amazing is that one person is going to win the course that I invested in, which was absolutely life-changing. And I think that is so generous. It is our hugest sponsor for the summit. And I think that itself, is get there, show up, learn, and then they can see if it is for them. It's not for everybody, but I think it is certainly it's a life skill. It's a very, very important skill to learn. And I'm grateful to you guys. And I'm also looking forward to the journey because, then you have that little glimmer of hope that you think I can do great things. I have one last question. Guy,
Sure.
Did you buy your mom the house?
Yes, and also as well.
And the car.
Funny enough, it's funny because one thing that she said is that when I was 4 years old, I said, "What's your favorite car if you had the choice?" And she said, "A Mercedes-Benz convertible." So with some of the money that I made from COVID last year, I bought her a Mercedes-Benz convertible as well. So she was happy with that as well. But yeah, she did get the house.
She got the house, she got the car. I think that's what it's all about, is being able to do that because, as a little boy, you just really watched her sacrifice for you and she deserved it. She really deserved a better life. So
I think being able to share it with people is the next big thing. You've got to be able to help yourself first, but once you've kind of done that, the opportunity to be able to share that knowledge with other people is priceless. And you've done that with your cousin, etc. Done it with various family relatives because it's about building up generational wealth for the future. And if you don't start now, you're not in the driving seat with your own finances, and no one cares more about your money than you. So why not be the person that's dictating it and not the banks,
Absolutely. Oh, guys, well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. And thank you so much for your time and just spending time with me talking. It's been wonderful. And I think it's put everything in perspective for people. So now they understand the whole picture so that when they arrive at the seminar, they are ready to learn.
Awesome. Yeah, super excited for you all. So look, great catching up.
We'll see you then.
Thank you very, very much.
Take care, guys. See you later.
Bye.